Now, in evaluating arguments, logical arguments, it's important to be aware of some common logical fallacies, which are ways that people try to make an argument that is certainly not valid, but for some reason are commonly accepted. So we're just going to go through the list here, and then we'll look at some examples. So first, an ad hominem argument. This is the one that attacks the person making the argument instead of the argument itself. So saying, well, this person, for example, politicians may say, well, this person had an affair, and so they're not a good person, so you can't trust what they say, right? It's attacking the person, not the argument. Next is appeal to ignorance. This is saying that because you haven't proven something wrong, it must be true. And you could actually flip this around and say, just because you haven't proven it true, it must be false. That's an appeal to ignorance, saying, well, we don't know, so it has to be such and such, which of course doesn't make any sense. Next is an appeal to authority. An appeal to authority argument is one where you point to an individual or group that is recognized as an authority or as special in some way, and use that person or group's position or opinion to justify the argument, even though, again, the argument itself is not being evaluated. And so, you'll commonly see this with well, this person's a doctor, and so what they say about this medical thing, it's going to be true. Well, doctors disagree about a lot of things, so that's not going to be a valid argument. Next is an appeal to consequence. An appeal to consequence just says that, well, this argument must be true because if it's not, then this bad thing will happen, okay? Saying the consequence of this not being true would be unacceptable and or undesirable, and so it must be true. Next is a false dilemma. This is where you take an argument, or your argument frames it as an either-or choice, saying, well, you've got these two options, and so you've got to pick one of them, whereas, well, there may be more than just those two. Next is circular reasoning, and this is where essentially you have an argument and you say, well, yeah, this argument's valid because the conclusion has to be true, and so the premise has to be true. Well, that's kind of reversing the direction of what arguments are. Next is a post hoc argument, and this is an argument that's saying because this thing, event A happened and then event B happened, event A must have caused event B. And, well, that's of course not true. Just because things happen in sequential order does not mean that the first one caused the second. Next is a straw man argument. The straw man argument is where you misrepresent an argument, you reframe it in an unfavorable way. You create a straw man that's easy to attack. And so, again, it's not evaluating the argument based on the argument itself. It's reframing the argument in a way that makes it appear bad. Then we have a correlation implies causation. This is a little kind of similar to post hoc, but different in that we're just saying that these two things happened, then one of them must have caused the other. Okay, and of course that's not going to be a valid argument. Okay, two things happening concurrently or sequentially is not going to mean that one causes the other. And so, for example, you could look at, sugar consumption increased in the United States over this time period, and so did the number of mass shootings. Therefore, sugar consumption is causing mass shootings. Right? Of course, that's a silly argument.